Our favorite MCU heroes have amazing powers and abilities that we just love. Thor has his hammer, Iron Man has his suits of armor, Captain America has a butt that just won't quit. But have you ever stopped to wonder what the Avengers' biggest weaknesses are? Today, I want to talk about whether our favorite MCU heroes have weaknesses that make them easy to beat. To borrow from another franchise, what is each hero's kryptonite and just how bad is it? Well, let's rank the Avengers' weaknesses from survivable to most devastating right now. Look, I know we all love Tony Stark and spend every day furiously sending 3,000 cheeseburgers to Kevin Feige's house with the hope that he'll revive the beloved character. Oh wait, that's just me? Well, anyways, even though we all love Tony, it's clear his character had some flaws. He was arrogant and had a tendency to offhandedly create supervillains every other week, but that wasn't his biggest weakness. No, I would say Iron Man's big weakness is that he was always so determined to do everything himself.
We need you.
Yeah, more than you know.
Not that much.
He was the one who was adamant about protecting Earth from the big one that he designed Ultron and roped in Bruce Banner to help. He felt he needed to push for the Sokovia Accords, but then didn't even follow them when he went and recruited a teenager to help fight alongside them. In Infinity War, he decided that he, Doctor Strange, and Spider-Man should go face Thanos alone to surprise him instead of regrouping with the other heroes. Heck, when the President was kidnapped in Iron Man 3, he didn't bother to call any of the other Avengers, which was totally a character thing and not just because the movie was called Iron Man 3 or anything like that. Anyways, his weakness may have gotten him in a lot of trouble, but the strength and bond he makes with his fellow Avengers is so strong, they'll always help him out. Plus, he's usually smart enough to solve any problem he makes for himself, so that's a plus. Captain America is another hero who has a weakness that does ultimately help him out. His biggest issue is that he was always a man out of time. Coming from the 40s and then suddenly waking up like 70 years later had a huge effect on him, I say in two ways. For one, his ideals and morals weren't typically aligned with the government and the country he fought so passionately for back in World War II. The events of both Captain America the Winter Soldier and Civil War really forced Steve to evaluate just what he believed in. It also made him just a little naive with the world around him. The biggest example of this is his treatment of Sam. At the end of Endgame, Cap gave the shield to Sam to continue on the Captain America legacy, but as Sam put it in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier TV show, Steve had no idea the true implications of having a black man be Captain America in this day and age, which caused a lot of conflict for Sam. And to top it off, Cap was such a man out of time that he decided to give it all up to return to his original time period and be with the woman he loves. For a personal character moment, that's great. For a superhero weakness, that's pretty big. But it's not a weakness that completely ruined him, as his outside perspective was also what made him such a great hero. Out of all the heroes on this list, T'Challa might be the one without any major weakness, so he's pretty high up in regards to weakness survivability. In his first appearance in Civil War, yes, he was consumed by revenge, and that is a fair weakness by itself, but that was resolved by the end of that movie before his own solo movie. And then he exhibits such strong, sturdy behavior in his solo movie that I can't really find fault in any of his actions. Sure, he was hesitant to open up Wakanda to the world, but once he was able to hear Killmonger speak and understand his perspective, T'Challa learns that Wakanda should be open and helping people. Not really a weakness when you learn a lesson in a single movie, right? And on top of that, to highlight what a great person T'Challa is, let's turn to What If, with one episode revolving around the idea of T'Challa getting abducted by Ravagers instead of Peter Quill. The result? T'Challa essentially saves the entire galaxy by just being his kind, determined, and kingly self. Like, he even convinced Thanos of the error of his ways, which is nuts.
Sometimes the best weapon in your arsenal is just a good argument.
Aye, aye, Commander.
So yeah, there's no real weakness that could be exploited with T'Challa. Alright, admittedly there's not a lot of game tape on Shang-Chi yet to really know what his biggest weaknesses are as a hero, so that's why he comes so early on this list. From what we've seen though, I would say the biggest weakness he's shown is his desire to live a not-so-special life. After he ran away from his father due to guilt over the man he was sent to eliminate, he hid in San Francisco and didn't do anything with his incredible skills. He was content with being a valet and singing karaoke with his best friend. Of course, he soon answered the call and now is the successful wielder of the 10 rings. But even when there's important work to be done in the post-credit scene of his movie, he decides instead to go to karaoke with Wong, which yes is an absolutely amazing scene, but if you strip away the comedy, you see a hero who's not afraid to sit back and relax a bit. It'll be interesting to see how his character will evolve and change over time. Bucky has been through a lot in the MCU so far and definitely is dealing with more issues in his mind than a lot of other heroes. He not only is desperate to make amends for his actions as his time as the Winter Soldier, but I think he's also worried it could happen again. One of the best scenes in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier TV show is the titular duo's therapy session, where Bucky tells Sam that the reason he's pushing for Sam to take the shield is because Cap really believed it, and if he was wrong about Sam deserving the shield, then maybe he was wrong about Bucky too. So much to unpack there. It highlights just how much Steve's support helped Bucky and how nervous he is with backsliding back to his brainwashed self. Though in every fight we've seen, I don't see this weakness affecting him in a truly significant way, so it's okay. Black Widow was the other hero who made a tremendous sacrifice in Endgame, but her actions were a little overshadowed by Tony Stark's big snap. Though that doesn't mean she was any less heroic. But let's talk about Black Widow's biggest weakness, and no, it's not the lawyers at Disney and Marvel Studios. Her weakness has always been her past. She started as an assassin and then eventually turned into a hero, but as she liked to say, she had a lot of red in her ledger. And while she tried to erase her bad deeds with good ones, in Age of Ultron she admitted that she felt like a monster. Then comes her final scene on Vormir. Sure, I think she threw herself off because she wanted to save Clint and the rest of her makeshift family, but I think you could also make the argument that she so easily jumped because she wanted to atone for all the bad things she did in the past, which is actually kind of sad. Wanda has a weakness that could potentially be devastating, but also it's a weakness that I'm sure a lot of other heroes would love to have. She has just an abundance of untapped power, which makes her one of the most powerful beings of any universe she's in. When she learned she was the Scarlet Witch, she immediately set off with the Darkhold and started cramming, vowing to get a handle on her increasingly superior magic skills. But the depth of her power might end up causing huge problems down the line. We already know she can hear across different universes, as made clear by her hearing her children cry out, and it's only a matter of time before she starts hopping universes in order to rescue them, threatening to tear the already thin membrane of the multiverse and split it wide open. A lot of our favorite MCU Avengers are usually the smartest person in any room they walk into, but I think it's Doctor Strange out of all of them who really feels the need to prove how smart he is to everyone around him. That was a key component to his character in the first Doctor Strange, and although he learned how to be a hero, he still retained that "I'm smarter than you" edge throughout his other appearances. This is especially true in the Spider-Man No Way Home trailer, where it looks like Strange's hubris is what causes a lot of the multiverse problems Peter faces. When a young teenager comes to Strange asking for a super complicated spell, Strange doesn't seem to hesitate and agrees. Wong tells him not to do the spell because it's way too dangerous, but then leaves to presumably keep making money off of Abomination fights. Tells Strange to not do something because it's dangerous, and then leaving is like the one thing you shouldn't do with Doctor Strange. So of course he does the spell. Ant-Man's biggest weakness isn't that Baskin-Robbins is watching his every move, all the time.
Baskin-Robbins always finds out.
No, his weakness is that he's just an everyday guy in a shrinking suit. He's a great audience surrogate because he'll ask the questions that we're all thinking in every one of his appearances. He's the one who asks questions about the quantum realm all the time, and that helps it get explained to us watching. Even though he has a master's degree in electrical engineering, we've never seen him really put that expertise to the test. Even in Endgame, where he was arguably the most important Avenger at the beginning, didn't really know how to capitalize on his trip to the quantum realm, and instead took it to the smarter heroes with basically the idea of time travel could be possible, right? And then let them do the heavy lifting in terms of figuring it out. Scott is super valuable on any team, but don't expect him to solve any big, complicated problem. I wonder if Bruce Banner would go to watch Venom Let There Be Carnage and be a little jealous and curious about Eddie Brock and Venom's relationship, because Bruce is in a similar boat. He occupies space with a giant angry green rage monster, and he spent over 10 years trying to figure out the best way to handle that tricky relationship. Even when it looks like he solved it, by that I mean turning into Professor Hulk and seemingly erasing the Hulk persona permanently, that doesn't even stick, as evidenced by Shang-Chi, where he's back to being Bruce Banner. This constant struggle to cohabitate is Bruce's biggest weakness, and it's something that needs to be addressed again in the future, preferably in the She-Hulk TV show. By almost all accounts, Wasp is a better hero than Ant-Man. Sure, she can't grow into a giant wasp, but she's proven to be the better fighter and strategist when it comes to using her shrinking suit. Like, be honest with me, would you rather have Hope or Scott protecting you against a villain? I think the choice is pretty clear, but Wasp does have some weaknesses as well. Right now, it's her parents. While Scott does have people he cares about in his life that can be exploited, Hope's whole family is now in the superhero business, and she just reformed her family unit after a lifetime of it being fractured. It's definitely the thing that can be exploited the most out of Hope's life. Vision is a fascinating character in the MCU, and one that we're not quite sure when and how we'll see again. White Vision is still out there somewhere, and now that Wanda is tampering with the multiverse, maybe there's a version of Vision in a different universe that didn't perish a dozen times like the OG Vision. But what is Vision's biggest weakness? I think it's hard to pinpoint this one, but I would say it's his constant struggle between being a synthezoid and being human. He's mostly always in a learning phase where he tries to process and understand human emotions and situations, and while he's gotten a better handle on it, there will always be a part of him that's just the AI speaking analytically, which causes some issues. The Guardians of the Galaxy, not to be mistaken for the Guardians of the Multiverse, have created a makeshift family for themselves and would do anything for one another. But because of their personalities, they all annoy the heck out of each other. This was most evident in Volume 2 when Peter and Rocket's egos and stubbornness led them to bicker enough to split up. So I would say the Guardians' biggest weakness is being confined to small spaces with each other, as that's just grounds for conflict and strife. Of course, the bonds they created are what helped them survive, so this is one of those weaknesses that's also a wash. The MCU's Peter Parker has all the makings of a great hero, but the fact that he's still a teenager comes with a lot of growing pains. Even though he's an incredibly strong hero, his weakness has proven to be his gullibility and his naivete. Just look at what happened with Mysterio. He was tricked pretty easily into handing over Stark's drone technology, and it was almost a complete disaster. Plus, if the No Way Home trailer is to be believed, he's naive in thinking that Doctor Strange can perform a spell that can erase everyone's mind about his identity, but doesn't think about the consequences of what that truly means for the people around him. If he doesn't grow up and stop being so naive, then he's gonna have serious issues down the line. I think Thor is the hero who's definitely lost the most in the MCU. His parents, his home, his brother, his hammer, his best friend, half his people, his eye, etc. And it looked like he was able to push through that loss because of his greater purpose. Well, that actually wasn't the case. After going on a revenge spree to stop Thanos in Infinity War, we realized that the drive to stop the Mad Titan was the only thing keeping Thor together. After Thanos succeeds, Thor goes into a depressive spiral that sees him basically give up and not see himself as worthy anymore. Why is Thor on the back end of this list? Because we actually see how his weakness over his feelings of guilt and worthlessness actually take him out of commission for 5 years. You would think Hawkeye's weakness is running out of arrows, but actually it's losing his family. Who knew, right? It's telling when heroes lose just how they react and move forward. Hawkeye, after experiencing unimaginable loss, didn't take it too well and went off the grid, going on a rampage and eliminating bad guys as Ronin. Without an anchor, Hawkeye succumbed to a darker lifestyle, so it's clear if you ever want to hurt Clint, you go after his family. Now, Captain Marvel doesn't have an exploitable weakness that we've seen yet. In fact, she's almost too powerful. She has such incredible strength that in itself is her biggest weakness. She's such a big hero that she has the responsibility to use her powers to protect the entire universe, not just Earth. It's why she was too busy for most of Infinity War and Endgame. Sure, you could chalk it up to the writers not wanting to include a super powerful hero in order to make it a challenge, but the in-universe explanation is that Captain Marvel is usually too busy protecting other planets all over the universe to always being around to help on Earth. That's a weakness on its own, some would say. Look, the TV show The Falcon and the Winter Soldier completely changed my mind and proved to me that Sam Wilson was absolutely worthy of taking over as Captain America. But one thing still nags at me. Sam is completely human, no super soldier serum at all. He still mostly moves at a human pace unless he's in the air, and if he gets shot, then that's game over. Well, at least his suit is made from vibranium and covers all his vital areas, right? Oh, wait, his head is still exposed? What? So overall, his humanity is what gives him a lot of his strength, but being a human means he can't go up against the big cosmic threats like Thanos without immediately being turned to jelly. Alright, one wild card before my last entry. Ikaris is a brand new hero to the MCU and will be introduced properly in the Eternals, and we don't quite know what his weakness is going to be yet, but if I had to guess, I would say it's the whole being hidden for thousands of years because someone told us to thing. Think about it. This is a devastating weakness because you literally have all the power to help out, but choose not to because of certain orders, and probably a fear that you'll mess things up. The biggest weaknesses are the ones that make you not fight at all. Now watch, the movie is going to come out and we're going to learn Ikaris' biggest weakness is like, I don't know, snakes or something. Alright, who takes the top spot? That's right, War Machine. Look, I love War Machine and Don Cheadle. I mean, not enough to nominate him for an Emmy for one small scene, but I still like him a lot. But the thing is, his suit runs because Tony was around to give him updates. It's not like Rhodey has ever built his suit before, so now that Tony's gone, what happens when the War Machine suit needs new batteries, or gets destroyed by a villain? How's Rhodey gonna fix it? That's gonna be my biggest question going into Armor Wars. Maybe Rhodey can just pick up a Justin Hammer knockoff suit? Those are still around, right?
Okay, what?
Yeah, but what about MCU villains? Are their weaknesses survivable? I don't know, man. Thanos' weakness clearly involved Ant-Man and a not-safe-for-work way to beat him. The MCU was too afraid to go that route, so I guess we'll never know if Thanos' true weakness would have worked.